Hello everyone, thanks for coming to the presentation about AirGap, a secure wallet. My name is Andreas Gassman. I'm the product owner and lead developer of AirGap. So let's first talk about the question, why is secure key handling important? I'm sure you all know why it's important, but it's good to kind of remind ourselves, like we are all too familiar with these kind of headlines popping up more and more over the last few years, basically where, well, things happen and users lose their funds. In some cases, there is actually an active attacker trying to steal funds. In others, it's just simply a mistake by the developers and the private keys get compromised well, by basically just the wallet making a mistake. This recently happened in the Solana ecosystem, where one wallet was actually by accident sending debug logs to a server which actually included all of the mnemonics of the user, and then well, about $8 million were actually stolen in that attack. So with self-custody, self-custody is hard. That's what we learn from all of this. In a decentralized world, the user takes over total responsibility of all of their funds. So we can also say with great power comes great responsibility. So that's why we identified some of the challenges that exist when you do self-custody. There are basically three main points. First of all, you have to make sure that you generate a secure secret. You have to find a way how you can interact with that secret in a secure way, and also how you can back up and store that secret securely. There are also some other things that are beyond our control, for example, 51% attacks or contract security, so we will not cover those today. So let's look at those in more detail. So first of all, what is a secret? Usually we know a secret or a private key in the form of those 12 or 24 words that we get when we use a wallet. Behind the scenes, this mnemonic is actually just a number between 1 and this very, very large number on the right side. And the important part is that this number is chosen randomly. And that's actually harder than it sounds, because randomness is actually quite a hard problem. If you ask people to choose a random number between 1 and 10, there are actually, I think it's around 40% chance that people will say 3 or 7. That's because for some reason those are perceived more random than, for example, 1 or 10, even though ideally it should be an equal distribution. For computers, this is also very hard to do, because computers are very good at, well, basically calculating things, but just doing things at random is something they are not very good at. This is why modern devices, they all include hardware random generators. These hardware random generators, their sole purpose is basically to create such secure random numbers. The problem is that in the past, there were actually a couple of attacks identified where governments basically tried to, or successfully added code or made those hardware random number generators, basically they added malicious code to it, making the output less or not secure at all, or random at all, which then in turn means that later on it would be possible for them to kind of regenerate the numbers, and they could break all the cryptography that is based on it, so encryption or signing. Now, the next point, the storage of the secret. So in a centralized system, you always have the option to recover access to your funds. If you lose your bank card, you go to your bank, they give you a new one. If you lose your PIN, you have a recovery mechanism as well. But in a decentralized system, if you lose your secret, you lose access to your funds forever. If someone steals your secret, you lose access to your funds forever. There is nobody that can help you. There is no support line that you can call. So you are really responsible for making sure that your secret is safe. And then the last point is interacting with the secret. So basically, you have to keep the secret very, very secure, but at the same time, you want to interact with it to sign transactions, which obviously has to be done on the device. So this is kind of like a problem, because on one hand, you would like to have the key outside of any digital device, but you do need it. So that in the traditional way, usually people have, or one way is to have the secret on the device itself, which is very convenient but not very secure. And then the better approach is to have a hardware wallet that is usually using USB or Bluetooth to connect to your online device, and the secret lives on there. This is much, much more secure, but it is well, a little bit harder to work with. So looking at these challenges, we decided to build AirGap, which basically allows you to turn your smartphone into a cold wallet. Our system is split up into two apps. We first have the AirGap Vault app, which handles your private key and is installed on a dedicated device. The other app that we have is AirGap Wallet. It is used to talk to the blockchain, get an overview over your portfolio, and prepare transactions for signing. The private key only lives on the offline device. It never touches the online app. The offline device is completely disconnected from any network, no Wi-Fi, no cellular connection, no Bluetooth, no NFC, not even a USB connection is used. Yes, we have a question?
Is that a separate device?
Yes.
So you've got two phones.
Exactly.
One on the other.
Yes. So ideally, you would use a spare phone. It can be one that you're no longer using. You factory reset it and then install AirGap Vault, but you can also buy a new one. But it is, to be really secure, you need two devices. Yes. You're welcome. So now let's look at how we solve the challenges that we have identified previously. So first of all, generating a secret. As we heard before, random number generators are potentially not reliable. So the output of those could maybe not be as secure as we hope it would be, which is why we use various sources of entropy together with the randomness to come up with a more secure secret. So we take the input from the camera, from the microphone, the device movements, and also the touch input, and we mash it all together with the output of the random number generator to generate a more secure secret. And this is how it looks like. So you move around your phone, you can draw on the screen, and in the bottom you can see how the percentages increase, and as soon as we have a certain level of additional entropy, you can actually move forward and generate your secret. And in case that the hardware random number generator is compromised, the attacker would also have to recreate all of the inputs, which is very unlikely. And then you have a secure key in the end. We also support, for the more advanced users, we support another way of generating a secret, which is by providing your own entropy. So you can roll dice or flip coins and then enter the sequence into our app, and it will give you a verifiable secret output. What this means is that if you enter the same sequence twice, you will always get the same secret. And this is good because you can actually use a different hardware wallet or implementation or like a program to verify that the resulting secret really is generated out of the entropy you provided. And then you basically go around all of the software or hardware risks that could exist in a hardware wallet or any wallet for that matter. Then, how we interact with the secret. We have already seen that before. We use QR codes to do the communication. So the QR codes have a couple of advantages over, for example, a USB or a Bluetooth connection. One of them is that QR codes are verifiable, or sometimes people call them transparent, which means that you can basically take another device and verify that is potentially also offline and decode the QR codes, and you will see exactly what is inside, which makes it much, much harder for information to leak, because you could actually potentially see it if you decode the QR codes. And another point is that it's a one-way communication, so you don't have a back and forth. The back and forth only exists if the user, well, basically uses the other device to scan. And with a USB cable, you don't really know what's happening. Like you can't see the communication. Now, one of the important points of AirGap is also that we're working on interoperability. So previously we have only or mainly supported AirGap Vault, our own companion app, which had to be used together with AirGap Vault. But this brought on some limitations because we were not up to date with all the features on all the different blockchains, which is why we are opening up our standard to also allow for other companion apps to connect with AirGap Vault. The biggest one we support is MetaMask. We added support for MetaMask about half a year ago, and you can now, in MetaMask browser extension and mobile phone, you can select Connect Hardware Wallet, and then you can pair it with AirGap Vault. So then you basically interact with all the dApps in MetaMask, but this key stays securely in AirGap Vault in an air-gapped fashion. We also support a couple of Bitcoin wallets, and we have recently been talking with the Superhero wallet developers, and we are now looking to bring the same functionality to the Eternity ecosystem as well. So basically, in the Superhero wallet, you will be able to pair the AirGap Vault application. Yes, and then the last point is, how do you store or back up your secret? So we all know these 24 words or 12 words that we get when we set up a wallet. These 24 words is basically, that's all you need to access your funds. If you lose those 24 words, you will no longer have access to your funds. The best practice here is to basically write down these 24 words on a piece of paper. Do not store it digitally. Just write it down on a piece of paper and put it somewhere safe. This has a couple of problems because obviously if, for example, a burglar breaks into your house and he finds the 24 words, he immediately has access to all of your funds, and you can't really do much to protect yourself. So we introduced a social recovery feature that is based on the Shamir secret sharing algorithm that solves this problem. What the social recovery feature does, or the Shamir secret sharing algorithm does, is it basically allows you to split a secret into multiple parts, and then you only need a subset of the shares to reconstruct the original secret. So let's see how that works. Here we have our original 24-word mnemonic, and we split it into 4 separate parts. There is a mathematical, as mentioned, a mathematical way behind how this is done, so it's done in a secure way. It's not just kind of splitting, like cutting your 24 words into multiple pieces, because that would actually leak information to each of the participants. The way how it works here is you actually don't leak any information if you have only fewer numbers of shares that are required to reconstruct the original mnemonic. So in this case, we have 4, and we said we need 3 out of them to recover the original mnemonic. So we can give those 4 shares to 4 of our friends. And then if we ever lose our original key, we can actually ask any 3 of them, doesn't matter whom, and we can combine their secrets together, or those shares together, and we get our original mnemonic out again. So this is pretty nice because you can, depending on your preferred setup, you could give the shares to your friends, you could put it, one of them in a bank vault, you can even bury it somewhere in a forest, because if one of those people, or even multiple people, collude together, they cannot reconstruct your secret unless they reach the critical number. And with the original mnemonic, we have access to our funds again. AirGap offers a couple of other security features as well. We have talked about a couple of them already. To point out is also maybe the BIP39 passphrase feature, which enables plausible deniability and gives some additional security for those who need it. So you could basically, if you are under duress and you have to give out your passphrase, your secret, you could have an additional passphrase that the attacker would then also have to get, but you could put some funds on a decoy wallet, and then, I mean, he will never know if he actually got the real passphrase, because every passphrase is a valid passphrase, and he can only decide if the amount that is on the address is actually, well, the main wallet of the user or not. We also have a secure keyboard, or one of my favorites is the BIP85 child entropy feature, which allows you to generate a new mnemonic out of your existing mnemonic that you can then use in a slightly less secure environment. For example, you can use it in a new wallet to try it out, how it works, so you don't have to back up that secret, but at the same time it's still secure, and you can always regenerate it in case you lose it. Yeah, when we launched about 4 or 5 years ago, we supported Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Eternity, and since then we have added a number of other currencies as well: Polkadot, Kusama, Cosmos, and others. The solution is completely open source. Every component is open source, and you can run it. We recommend that you run it on a mobile device because they are more secure. But you can actually also build it for desktop, run it on Linux if you wish, depending on your skill set and your preferred setup. It's free to use. We don't have any paid features, and it's also reproducible, which means that the APKs we publish in the store, they are exactly matching the source code that are on our repositories, and this is also checked by a website called walletscrutiny.com. They do regular checks to see if the binaries match the source code, and so far I think at the moment, out of the probably over 500 wallets that they analyzed, only 9 of them are reproducible. So in summary, our app is secure, it's convenient, and it's accessible. Our roadmap, we have a bunch of things planned, but the most exciting things are the isolated modules, which will allow users or developers to create modules that can be dynamically added to AirGap to extend its functionality in a secure way. We also plan some UI improvements to make all the processes more streamlined and easier to understand. And then we are also planning to add seed XOR and Hamming backups as some additional ways how a mnemonic can be backupped. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you for your attention. And